guys, welcome back to Prep Talk on Prepping in Progress. Today we're going to talk about Steve's 3 rules for life. So stay with me. Cue the cool intro. We better make it 4 rules. Rule number 1, always have coffee. Always. Seriously though, my 3 rules for life. Many parents have umpteen thousand rules for their children. We do, I do. Bedtime at 10 o'clock, do your chores, mow the lawn, don't swear in my presence, so many different things. Each and every one you have expands upon a basic principle. Stay within your boundaries. When I was growing up meant that I could ride my bike the length of the block and then around the block. Then eventually, 48th Street and 56th Street and Pioneers, made a square. All kinds of, little nuances, be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there, that kind of thing. But Steve's 3 rules for life. You're going to love this. Respect yourself. Respect others. And respect property. Now respect yourself. Respect yourself enough to tell the truth, or as much of the truth as you can. There are times where you don't tell family secrets or some things that you did in your past. You don't have to be, here's my life, here's an open book. But you be honest and straightforward as much as you are comfortable with. And you always tell the truth within that parameter. And that falls into 2 categories. You're respecting yourself, and you're respecting the person you're talking with. Don't do drugs, kids. That is respecting your body. You can throw out respecting the law of man and rules of others. That's just plain respect for the temple that you have, the magnificent machine that your consciousness inhabits. Not eating to excess, working out, doing what you can to better yourself physically falls into respecting yourself. Making sure your assignments are done on time if you're in school or if you're at work. That's as much respecting yourself as respecting your employer. Moving on to being a camp counselor when I was a teenager. Those were my 3 rules. These are my 3 rules within the cabin. You showered, you dressed, you put on deodorant, you comported yourself as a decent human being. You were respecting yourself. Moving on to respecting others. We can step back again to telling the truth. It's not just about respecting yourself enough and valuing yourself in that respect to be honest about yourself and to be honest about what you're saying. It has to do with the person you're speaking with. Whether you respect them as a person, whether you find them to be a respectable person. You respect others. Respecting others could go into dating, how you treat a young lady or a young man you are with, or for those of us who are a little bit older, how you go about treating a girlfriend, a fiance, or even a wife. Especially a wife, because if you don't have a happy wife, you don't have a happy life. And treating her with respect is a key ingredient. Her turning around and treating you with respect, treating you with value. Um, you have to be working together. You have to be trying. And when you try, things do get better. And it's a struggle. Some relationships struggle for months and years when things just aren't quite calm and peaceful. I'm a firm believer in continuing to struggle, continuing to do your best by the other person. Respecting others goes into the workplace, like we've begun to talk about earlier. When your boss hands you an assignment, whether it's I need this written up, or I need you to go to this nursing home and investigate these allegations, or the police officer who shows up at your doorstep, he chooses to respect you, you choose to respect him, and for the most part, things go smoothly. Um, Giving 110% in the workplace is a part of respecting the workplace, respecting your employers. And if you're the boss, it's respecting yourself as well as respecting your clients. This is probably going to be the shortest segment. We phase into respecting property. I'm not just talking about, well, don't go out and wreck your buddy's car when you borrow it. I'm not talking about don't go out and spray paint a fence or a car or a house. I'm talking about when you borrow something, do your best to return it in better condition than when you borrowed it. That means, if someone loans you his tiller. This happened a few years ago, actually. My friend, Mr. Bob, loaned me his tiller, and it was an older tiller. He had done a lot of work on it. And when I went to switch gears, I grabbed the knob, went to move it down, and the knob broke right off in my hand. That tiller was not mine. And we realized there was also a problem with the cable and a few other things. And out of my own pocket, I went out, I got a new cable, I got a new shifter handle, and installed it. Then, when it was time to return it, I made sure that it was washed. I made sure that the tines were cleaned out. That way, next year, and I did not intend this, but he called me up and said, "Hey, do you want my tiller this year?" I thought I was going to have to ask, but he just offered it up. And I said, "Well, we're going to try a natural form of gardening this year and using raised beds, and I'm not going to till ground this year." He said, "Okay, not a problem." And then this year we ended up getting a tiller. yes, the benefits are there to treating other people's property with respect. I'm not advocating you treat someone's property with respect just to get to use it again. I am pointing out the benefits that can come from treating someone else's property with respect. People, especially in this day and age, seem to be all about mine. And I admit, in teaching my kids, trying to teach my kids the value of property and treating other people's property good, I used, well, that's mine. You know, treat it well. Well, that's mine. You're borrowing it. That's mine. You're taking it. And in some ways, I think the lesson of treating someone else's property with with respect can be forgotten in the mindset of today's um, generation. I may have used the wrong terminology. They're getting it though, slowly but surely. I just may have made the lesson harder by not taking into account the social aspect. But this, I don't really remember which generation is called the me generation, but I see a lot of me-ism in the generations coming up. You know, there's a meme floating around Facebook about, you know, the coronavirus right now that says if the virus only affected the young, the old would be wearing masks for you. Why aren't you doing it for them, basically? And I don't like being told what to do, period. I like being able to choose to do the right thing, not because it was mandated, but because it was the right thing to do. Having said that, I see a lot of people endangering others. And I'm not just talking about the masks, I'm talking about the way people drive. Um, Sometimes it's the guy on the gun range. It's the gentleman who's had a little too much to drink and then gets in the car and heads home. And part of that is that, well, I'm okay, I can handle myself. But it's not a respect for others. I mean, if you even think you might have a little bit off, now your reflex is not quite adequate. You might want to stop and think about others for a minute and respect others, respect property when it comes to a vehicle. And what happens if I crash into your vehicle? I've got full coverage. I'm covered. What about you? Just about everything in life, I think, can be covered in respect yourself, respect others, and respect property. So that's your ear nugget for the day. Are you respecting yourself? Are you respecting others? And are you respecting property? I leave it to you how you want to apply the principle. Alright, guys. Normally we open with a prayer. Today I'm going to close with one. So, as you are able, bow your heads with me and let's talk to the Father. Merciful Father, some days we feel like you're right next to us and you're right there with us, and some days it feels like we're in the middle of a storm and you're nowhere nearby. But throughout all that, logically in our heads, we know you're there. We know you're nearby. We know we're in your arms. We know we're in your hands. We know that even as the winds blow and the seas of life turn to storms, you're there with us. Today, there are several people that we know about who are sick, who are struggling financially, and we have some friends who are struggling with moral decisions that they have made. We ask you to walk with them. We ask you to guide each and every one of these people. We ask you for healing, physically, mentally, and emotionally. We ask you to walk and talk with us. Thank you, Father, for all that you have done for us and for all that you have given us. Amen. Thanks for joining me for Prep Talk, guys. I'll see you soon.